Don Ho was a dear friend of hers, and he said, yeah, bring your daughter. We'd love to have her. We'd love to pay her. And so I started working 2 shows a night at the Don Ho show. And Don Ho was an icon. Every celebrity that came to town always visited the show and then came backstage to visit with Don Ho. And he had a pune'e, and I would sit on the pune'e with my Shirley Temple and just be a fly on the wall to this experience.
Today, we're joined by Jalene Kanani, the dynamic designer and president of NOHO Home, Hawaii. Jalene beautifully weaves her rich Hawaiian heritage into luxurious home decor, creating spaces that are both culturally significant and visually stunning. From her beginnings as a keiki hula performer with Don Ho and around the world, to becoming a leader in Hawaii's design industry, Jalene shares how traditional values shape modern Hawaiian entrepreneurship and why preserving culture through creativity is crucial for the future. This is a fun episode. We get to learn more about Jalene and Native Hawaiian creators. So thanks for tuning in. Let's go.
Aloha. Welcome to Hawaii's Best. Here, you'll learn what to know before traveling as we discover Hawaiian culture, local businesses, and the experiences that make Hawaii one of the most incredible places in the world. And now, your host, Brian Murphy.
Aloha, and thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Hawaii's Best. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. We're talking with Jalene of NOHO Home, and I can't wait for you to hear more about her story and about her wisdom and insight into Hawaiian culture and its impact and influence around the world. We talk about all things from design to regenerative travel to even travel tips. So this episode is packed full of a great conversation with Jalene. Jalene began her journey in the arts as a keiki hula performer, sharing her talent on the iconic stages of Waikiki and with performers like Don Ho. She not only performed across the continental U.S., but also internationally, embodying the spirit of aloha and serving as an ambassador for Hawaiian culture. From these roots, Jalene has grown to become a leading figure in Hawaii's design industry and in entrepreneurship. Her mother, a designer and entrepreneur in her own right, ignited Jalene's passion for creativity. This influence is evident in Jalene's brand NOHO Home, where she crafts Hawaiian-inspired luxury home decor that tells the story of the islands through every piece. Jalene's design are a testament to her deep connection with her culture, her travels, and her dedication to sharing it with the world. Today, we discuss more about the intersection of culture and commerce and how traditional Hawaiian values can inspire modern entrepreneurship in today's landscape. So I can't wait for you to hear, learn, and get to know Jalene even more. So let's go ahead and let's talk story with Jalene from NOHO Home. Aloha, Jalene, and thank you so much for coming on Hawaii's Best today. How are you doing today?
Well, aloha kakahiaka. I am doing great, and I have this beautiful pikake lei I was gifted, so all is well.
It's beautiful. Tell us a little bit about how everything started, specifically NOHO. How did that all start?
Well, let's see. That is a long time coming and loaded answer. So, NOHO Home, and I'll start with NOHO, which in Olelo, Hawaii means, amongst other things, to dwell and to reside, to sit with not a thought or a feeling. So that's the spirit of NOHO Home or NOHO Home, which is to feel connected and to dwell in your sacred spaces. And so NOHO Home, we provide Hawaiian-inspired luxury home decor. We like to call it style with aloha.
Love that. I'm curious about, because your mom was a designer, and I'm curious about how your mom's work inspired and shaped your path.
So, my mom was the first education coordinator for the Polynesian Voyaging Society.
Oh, cool.
And she was there through their voyages, their first voyages, in the time when Hawaii was really looking back to its roots, looking, to explore, our indigenous knowledge, specifically in this case, how to bring back traditional ways of navigation. So, that was an exciting period in Hawaii. And it was a great time for me to be at, the hip of my mother as she was doing this work in the community. She also went on to become the entrepreneur training specialist for Alulike, another community organization. And what she did was she specialized in teaching Native Hawaiians how to start their own businesses. So all of the nuts and bolts of that. And she taught over 1,000 students and, budding entrepreneurs how to go into business for themselves. So again, at her side through all of this, not necessarily wanting to learn, but just kind of assimilation. Yeah. It was a kind of guidepost into not only, serving the community and our culture, but, when I brought NOHO Home to market, certainly, pulled on that. And actually my first work experience was at the age of 10. My mother had her own business called Wailani Originals, Hula Girl Creations. And we did craft fairs, and she had her product in Liberty House in McInerney. And so I would accompany her, and I would sell products. And when I got old enough, she would drop me off at craft fairs and go to another one. And I went to craft fair by myself. I think I was probably about, 12 or 14 at the time. And that was my first entrance into entrepreneurship for sure.
So how would you compare if someone is going into business now, say a Native Hawaiian, compared to back then? What are some of the similarities and differences going into business?
Well, the similarity is easy. It is the desire to tell authentic stories about our history, our culture, our cultural practices, what our aloha spirit, everything that we do that we feel is unique and special in the world. Nothing's changed with that. That's really what every Native Hawaiian entrepreneur goes into business doing, I believe. What has changed is the business environment. That has certainly changed over time. I have kind of coined it old school and new school, with old school business being you have an idea for a product, you make a product, you sell one product, and then you take that money and you then make two products, and you continue to expand in that fashion. At some point you want to grow, you take out a small loan from the bank, you pay that back within a really short amount of time, and you grow your business slow and over, a long period. And then you try to hand it down to your children. So,
and then they take it off, right? Is that how that works?
And then they run with it. And quite frankly, they say, "No, Mom," or "No, Dad." Well, I'm gonna go do something else in the world, right? So juxtaposition that with new school, where you have an idea. You sell your idea to someone get on a napkin and on the back of a piece of paper, and then they fund your idea, and then you grow and scale exponentially, as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the new school approach to business and startups. And I think as a Native Hawaiian, we really have to think about how we find equilibrium between the two, because, the ways of passing on that indigenous knowledge that you hopefully bring to your company and your work and your products, wanting to maintain that for the lahui, for the community, versus just, just strictly for economic gain. So there's a lot of conversation about that, and it's actually quite exciting to problem solve for how do we grow businesses authentically, but in the landscape of today's evolving business community.
Ooh, let's maybe stay there for a minute, because I'm curious how you how you as a business move forward and grow, and however that is measured for your own metrics, how you grow, but also how you incorporate and stay true to ancient practices and mindset, and how you where's the marriage and unity? How do you practice that?
So I think, from a practice standpoint, it's practicing the values and incorporating it into our, our daily work and our activities as how we function as a company. And so those guiding principles that we have, not only, for business, but for our families, right? Our the way that we personally show up in the world, and taking that and applying that to business, and kind of probably the biggest one, for me and so many is kuleana, right? Like, what is that kuleana to then serve the community with what you do and in the different ways? Now, the product itself, right? Like how let's just say that the spirit of aloha, the values, of our ancestors and our community, and how we translate that is the meaning behind it. The vehicle or the method that we currently are utilizing, right? Once upon a time, my vehicle and my method was hula. That's how I did all those things. But now it's home decor. So, how do I take these big thoughts and inspiration and make it into a tiny, teeny, witty little pattern, and then share the story behind it of the inspiration? I also like to be very clear in that this is an artful endeavor. I'm not trying to reinterpret design that has come before me. I am bringing an artful eye to inspiration with a grounding in whatever knowledge I might have, my ohana might have, my community might have, that they share with me, so that I can then create, beautiful works of art and design motifs, and then, put it together into an experience and talk about that experience.
In the beginning of this episode, I mentioned about some of your background as a keiki performer, hula with NOHO. And I'm curious about, maybe you should expand on that a little bit, about your background in hula and how that has influenced, you already alluded to a little bit, but how that has influenced your designs and creative process today.
Absolutely. So my beginnings in hula was at the age of 3 with Auntie Kealoha Kalama, and I danced for her. And then I also danced alongside my mother, who at the time, so my mother was a famous entertainer. She traveled all over the world. She did world fairs, dancing hula. She was at the Lexington Hotel Hawaiian Room. At her side, very young, I was, performing in small private parties, etc. So Don Ho was a dear friend of hers, and he said, "Yeah, bring your daughter. We'd love to have her. We'd love to pay her." And so I started working 2 shows a night at the Don Ho show. And Don Ho was an icon. Every celebrity that came to town always visited the show and then came backstage to visit with Don Ho. And he had a pune'e, and I would sit on the pune'e with my Shirley Temple and just be a fly on the wall to this experience, until the day that the liquor commission came in and you can't have a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old. I don't remember exactly how old I was at the time, but you can't have her working in a bar type atmosphere 2 shows a night, So
it's coming and ruining it for everybody, man.
Yeah, right. That's the end of my career. Well, at least until 14 when I got a punch at the bar at hula shows the night.
That's awesome. Good stories. I mean, as a 5-6 hour old at the time, but doing 2 shows a night and a Shirley Temple in between, that's pretty fun.
Yeah, for sure. I got 10 more stories like that. Frankly.
We'll talk story a little bit. Your mission statement emphasizes a sophisticated island experience. And I'm just curious, I think I can fill in the blanks there, but for people listening, can you expand a little bit on your mission statement as a brand?
We have several missions, and one of them was to elevate Hawaiian-inspired design as it's seen, globally in the world. So, if you Google Hawaiian decor, you will find what we consider craziness.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot of, inauthentic tiki. You'll find grass skirts and, bobblehead dolls. And so, we really wanted to show up in the world with some authenticity, some, true connection that, a Hawaiian is telling a Hawaiian story. And, to kind of add to that, there is a desire, I think, by our community to tell our story and to amplify our story as told, by us through a Hawaiian lens or a Kanaka lens. Because so much of what the world sees and thinks and experiences has come through media and Hollywood. So that amplification of those storylines, very much driven by talented people in Hollywood. So we're now kind of deconstructing that and saying, hey, these are some things that we experience that we think are special, that connect us to our Aina, our land, our ancestors, our indigenous knowledge and ways of being, our values. And, we think it's special and we want to talk about it and we want to share it. And so, I think that's the desire of, so many Native Hawaiian entrepreneurs.
You mentioned something kind of in passing and rather quickly about grass skirts. And I just kind of, you Google, you go to Amazon, think you put in, Hawaiian shirt or whatever, and you get kind of a plastic listing of plastic leis, grass skirts. I'm curious because it feels like there's still a lot of people who aren't aware that isn't culturally appropriate. We talk a little bit about the why behind that. And I think the main thing is just for people to be aware of what is truly culturally appropriate and what is a representation of the Native Hawaiian.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let me just kind of start with a bit about how I feel.
Yeah.
Because, I'm Native Hawaiian and as a Native and my mother, right? So our experience has been that we have gone out into the world and we have danced hula and we have also worn cellophane skirts. Now, I don't know that a Native Hawaiian designed those costumes. They did not. Those costumes were designed for Hollywood. They were designed for an audience and they were feeding the audience what the audience wanted to experience.
Sure.
Well, I think just the paradigm shift of now we're sharing what we want to share. We're the designers of the set that is.
Oh, I love that.
Being broadcast and elevated. So I don't really want to throw a lot of shade at that because that is how we were portrayed. That is how people experienced us. And quite frankly, we certainly want to stop cultural appropriation, but we don't want to stop cultural appreciation.
That's powerful.
Because without that appreciation, there is no curiosity. Without that curiosity, no one has the time or energy to really learn about us as we want to show up in the world, learn about our values, learn about our culture. So there needs to have that sense of appreciation and curiosity to have the space for us to come and say, hey, this is who we truly are. This is how we truly want to be represented and share our heart, share our heart with the world. So, one by one, I think the community is putting out messaging, products, and what we need from the greater global world is to accept that and to take it and appreciate it and enjoy it for all that it is that we are now, wanting to share. So, one by one, those Google searches get better and better every day.
Yeah. How do you feel about the current marketing of Hawaii as a destination? How do you feel that is going, and what can be better?
For some time now, there has been a desire to move to, regenerative tourism and, breaking that down, tourism that is healthy for the community and is responsible and actually brings an economic driver that is sustainable for us as a small island community. But really, I think the tipping point was the pandemic, in that you had a lot more open space, right? We were challenged to think about, well, first of all, we had a moment in time where there was no tourism, where Waikiki was bare and vacant. I've never seen that in my life. It was actually scary to see, just how empty it was. But it gave us this moment to pause and say, how can we add fuel to the fire of this regenerative tourism business model? And you didn't only have the community now saying it, but now you had the hoteliers, you had, stakeholders, the convention companies really listening, because there was just a pause, and we had the time and space to do that. Well, when tourism came back, it came back hot and heavy, and part of that was forgotten, in the effect of, hey, let's just ramp up and get business going. But the underpinning of that has now really brought some traction to regenerative tourism, in that we have a new entity whose, role is to look specifically at creating opportunity for a more healthy tourism economy for us. And, what does that really mean? And how do we see ourselves within that? There's a couple of things. So one, how do you as a traveler, I'm going to call him a traveler. First of all, moving from a tourist mindset to a traveler mindset, and explorer, having that mindset of an explorer, that we're here to learn, explore, not gawk, not see, not frolic, but we're here to explore with a sense of gratitude for the experience of being able to explore a new space and share, time and company with new people. And kilo. So the practice of kilo, which is constant observation over long periods of time to understand a concept, a person, our aina. So this practice of kilo, I think, is pretty critical. If we could share that with, our travelers, in that observation is key. It's the first step to understanding. So before you jump in and experience, observe. And sometimes observation is where it stops. So especially with things like, our aina or our sea life, for example, right? There's so much around, sea turtles, wanting to interact with them. And if it could have a mindset of kilo, let's observe them from afar. Let's see, their beauty. Let's see how they behave. Let's see their patterns of living. Why are they here? With the curiosity and exploration, by the mere fact of just observing. And that mindset, if you take that even further, to Kanaka, really kind of sit in your thoughts and your feelings and observe how people go through their day, in our island home, right? And don't just gloss it over by, everyone here is wonderful and happy and beautiful. We'll take into the fact that we live in an island home. We're a little crowded on Oahu, what does the housing look like in some areas, and then think about why is that? Why, and explore that not only on your stay, but after your stay. Stay connected to us. This past weekend, I volunteered at the Bishop Museum during the intertribal powwow. And basically I was signing up people for our newsletter and then also potentially, if they're interested in membership. And what I found was that a lot of visitors said, "Oh, I don't live here, so no, thank you." And then it was just a moment, where I took to share with them that we have a lot of things that the museum does online and in collaboration with other museums and organizations across the globe. But that when they leave Hawaii, they should stay connected, continue to learn and grow. If they were really excited about what they saw as they were exiting Hawaii Hall, think about elongating that experience, right? You just had, 30 minutes of awe and excitement and wow. And if you stay engaged with us, you can have that all year. So that kind of mindset, that's really what I would love to be able to continue to talk story about and share with our travelers. That's the kind of, I think, spirit that we would love to have, and kind of to take that to my business, to NOHO Home. So we kind of thought about how do we show up in this, in this ecosystem, right? Besides just selling products, in retail establishments, how do we show the work that we do? We've taken a lot of time and energy and love to build out a microfactory with innovation. Microfactories and mass customization are the future of fashion. And, we've brought that to home decor. And, we have a small, diverse team, half of us Native Hawaiian in YPO. And how do we, and in an industrial area, how do we share that? Because on a daily basis, we are taking inspiration and we are turning it into motifs. And from motifs, we're turning it into fabric. And from fabric, we're turning it into product. And from product, we are getting it to the masses, hopefully one day. And so we started doing tours. We started inviting people in.
Oh, cool.
And it was almost an experiment in how can businesses who are, somewhat unrelated to the tourism industry show up for this model of regenerative tourism, right? So the bay next door is a gentleman who does high-end audio systems for motorcycles. It is a man cave. Like, I think all of his work is literally volunteer to come and work there every night. And so, I talk story with him. I'm like, hey, you could invite, a couple of guys, once a week to come on in and just, sit on that upholstered car seat that's sitting right there, hand him a beer. And as you're working, you guys can talk story. And, think about the connection that would bring, between you and, not only, our community, like invite the community in. And then, like next level is invite the global community in. So
I just pictured on your online store, like motorcycle seat covers as like, as like a product. I'm like, I mean, that's cool. That's.
Oh yeah. We discussed that for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious because with your travels and both within Hawaii, but also beyond, how has, thinking about the beyond, the other parts of the world, has that influenced design choices and creative inspirations?
100%. So I've actually traveled quite extensively at first, dancing hula, but then, as an explorer and then through business. So I think I've been to like 26 countries. And I'm actually quite proud of my upbringing and my heritage. And because I think that the way that I travel, and many of us travel, is that quiet exploration and observation. And, we love to engage. We want to be invited into your home, and sit on your tatami mat and try to talk story, right? Like we want to go through that experience of what does the inside of their home look like, and what do they have for dinner, and what do they talk about, how's their music? Oh my God, like we think it's like a bingo, like the greatest thing in the world when we find a little restaurant at 2 a.m. that people are playing music and having some aguardiente in Colombia or some limoncello in Cinque Terre in Italy, right? That is gold, right, to us. So in that, I think the inspiration that I bring back is the connecting lines. What are so similar? So in my representation of our uniqueness and our love and our values and our designs, even our designs, how do I also see that represented in the world? What will be that connection? Is it color? Is it sensory touch, feeling? Is it the patterning itself? Will they take something away from the pattern that feels familiar to them? And so I'm constantly utilizing my travels and my exploration to create connection and experience for those that I, share my patterns with.
Do you guys do much with neighboring islands?
Absolutely. Well, I should say that we don't do enough. I'm always asked, when are you coming to Maui, or when are you coming to Hawaii? Like showing up in a all NOHO Home, fashion in big.
Sure.
Where we have shown up with our partners. So we are on the outer islands from a product perspective in Homeworld. So, people can see, touch, and feel our products. We attend Merry Monarch, and that's probably, the great joy of myself and my team, because we actually get to see, so many of our customers from day one, because they really were a day. Merry Monarch was really a day one for us. That was kind of where we
interesting.
started. Yeah. So, we turned on the brand online, like we turned it on in January, and we basically like sold nothing until Merry Monarch, 3 months later. And that just like fire,
Interesting.
Yeah.
We had Lex Brizzy on. That was a very similar kind of story. Yeah.
Oh, I'm wearing Lex Brizzy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
You can see me. I don't know if the audience can see.
Yeah.
This is her latest print. I got it. I made it in Hawaii this year. I love her. She's actually an inspiration for me. I am inspired by people who are younger than me. I am informed by people who are older than me, and I'm mentored by people who are older than me. I am inspired by people who are younger than me. Yeah. Their energy, their abandon of fear. They do not fear, and they put out their creative, and so I'm very inspired. People sometimes think like, oh, let me just get a website and I'll sell some stuff. That way. I tried it.
Want to have a little bit of fun, and imagine you're at a dinner party, you're hosting a dinner party, and you can invite 3 Hawaiian historical individuals. Who would you invite and why?
Do they have to be alive?
No, they could be alive or past.
Ah, okay. Well, Kamehameha the Great. And I choose him because I have a lot of questions for him. That as a leader and a mindset and what his thinking was, what truly the spirit of, uniting the islands was around, and the experience of the first, outsiders coming and how that influenced.
The first contact. Yeah.
And then I would say Iolani Luahine as the person who kind of bridged the experience of hula from ancient times to modern times. I feel like she was a bit of, that bridge and that experience. And I was curious to know where she came from in that. And then I would just get greedy. I would just want my ohana.
I love that.
So while I would want to have my grandmother, you said Hawaiian. So we were adopted by a family that was pure Portuguese. And when I say we, it was my mother. So my mother was adopted by pure Portuguese, and love my grandma dearly. And so while I would love to have her at the table, if you said they had to have cocoa.
Well, come on.
Cocoa, I would pick my biological grandmother.
Okay.
Because I don't know much about her, but I would like to learn. I would like to learn about her experience. My understanding is she did not have an easy life, but that she was a joyful person in some aspects. But I would be interested in learning and really just understanding her life experiences.
I love that. Thinking about travelers, explorers listening right now, what is, and you as a traveler yourself, what's like one essential, this thing is like super practical here. What's one essential thing that you never leave home without when you travel?
Well, actually, that's a really good question, because I am a traveler and I leave home with nothing. I pack my bags about, 2 hours before my flight, and it takes me 30 minutes for it. And
you sound like me.
Yeah.
It drives my wife crazy.
I hate that this is the case. Okay, so I'm going to give you two. See, I can't answer really simply.
Yeah.
Number one is my phone and a charger.
Yeah.
So, that phone is my connection to my family, my work, and because I can do my work on my phone, a large part of it, but it's also my camera. I no longer I used to, take, big, beautiful cameras with me. I no longer do that. I just take my phone, photos and videos to bring back memories. But, this is gonna sound creepy, but I take something of home that grounds me so that I come back.
Oh, interesting.
So lately, and oh my God, you're the only person who knows, and now the whole world is going to know. My daughters are going to laugh. I take my grandson. So I have I have my one and only grandson. He is 16 months, and I take some article of clothing.
Oh,
just some article of anything.
Yeah.
If there was a toy, I'd take a toy, but usually it's just, a burp rag sitting around or a t-shirt or whatever. And I just stick it into my bag. And that's just my connection to my family, and, makes sure that I come home and I don't move to Siena, Italy and live there forever.
Right. Yeah. That's actually a really good idea, because people visit Hawaii and like, I just want to move here. I just want to come here. I just want to live here. Like, being grounded into where your community is and bringing that aloha into your community and what you've learned is priceless. And having that reminder of like, oh yeah, I should probably go home because
don't get lost. Don't get lost. Come home.
That's a good point. This has been really fun. I know I mentioned your online store earlier, but if you could just leave people with how they can find you, anything else that you would love for people who are listening to know more about you.
Oh, well, thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely.
So our website for all of our retail, residential product, NOHO Home Hawaii.com. And then we also, for those people who are in the business community and, want to partner with us, the architect and interior design community, they follow us on NOHO Home contract.com. So that's where you can see all of the building blocks for custom and commercial products. We have an Instagram, and our handle is NOHO Home, NOHOHOME, and that's across all of our platforms. You can find us on Macy's.com, Bloomingdale's.com, in No'eau Designers. Please, when you're in Hawaii, try to make a stop at No'eau Designers. It is filled with Native Hawaiian entrepreneurs and their mea, or their goods. And it is a wonderful place to shop. Homeworlds, if you're local, please visit your local Homeworld store. Bloomingdale's. So we are in Bloomingdale's, Ala Moana. And we also are in Martin MacArthur and Foodland with our giftables. So, those are definitely places that all of our visitors stop by when they're here. You can pick up some of our products there. But thank you so much for the time and opportunity to share that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jalene. I appreciate you.
Aloha and ahui ho.
Mahalo for tuning in to today's episode of Hawaii's Best, and a big shout out and thank you to Jalene again for her time and sharing her unique insights and stories from her journey as a designer and culture ambassador. If you're inspired by Jalene's work and our conversation together, you can learn more about her and her designs by visiting their website, nohohomehawaii.com, and you can follow them on all the social medias at NOHO Home. Again, thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode. We'd love to have you stay connected for future episodes, and all you got to do is simply hit the follow button, and when the next episode gets released, it'll automatically be there for you. So again, until next time, be well. Aloha.
Mahalo for listening to this episode of Hawaii's Best. To stay up to date on future episodes, please subscribe and visit us at hawaiisbesttravel.com.